Hey there, welcome to another episode of Mike's Collection. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is mostly just the new purchases I've made in the past couple of weeks. So I'm recording this on April 1st, so we are still in, the middle, I hope the middle, of this, COVID-19 crisis. I'm halfway through week 3 of basically being stuck at home. It was Monday, March 16th. That's the morning that I got up expecting to go into the office, but we had an email telling us to stay home that day and that they would communicate to us further. And basically, the initial communication was that they expected everybody to be working from home until April 5th. And I don't think we've officially got word on what's going to happen after this week, but it seems like we are going to be working home for at least another month. So, yeah, I know like people in the States, there's still some states that they haven't been told to stay home yet, and this and the other thing. Some people are only into maybe their second week or maybe their first week. I think Canada was pretty good about getting on this early, but it has made for, a lot of sitting around the house. I probably should have accomplished a lot more in the time I've been home. I haven't done a whole lot, but I have still managed to pick up some toys during this time. I've been doing a lot of online purchases. However, a lot of that stuff is just pre-orders, so that's stuff that I'll be getting in a couple of months. And I have had to make a couple of trips out for groceries, the essentials. Most of our non-essential businesses are closed, so I can't go to Toys R Us or EB Games, which is where I buy a lot of my toys. But Walmart is still open because they sell groceries. So every time I go out to get some groceries from Walmart, I check the toy aisle. And the last 2 times I've been there, it's actually been pretty successful. Probably because there's not too many parents out shopping for toys right now. Most people are sticking close to home, and when they do go out, it is primarily for the essentials. So like in my last video, I showed you some new Transformers and stuff that I've got. So yeah, in this episode here, I'm going to tell you about some of my new toys. First off, I went to Walmart maybe half a week ago or so, a few days ago, and I picked up 2 figures, and I recorded them. Normally I try and do everything here in one night, so if I'm doing this introduction and then I'm going to show you the toys in their boxes and then I'm going to open them up and do the review, I try and do that all in one shot generally. But if I know I'm not going to shoot this whole video and the introduction, maybe I just don't have time, but I have a toy and I want to open it up and play with it, I will pre-record me showing you it in the box, so at least I have that on video. So I shot a little bit of video for 2 toys that I bought the other day, and they're still in their packaging. And the reason for that is these were both 2 toys that I planned not to open. I basically bought to keep them carded up on my wall. As you can see there behind me, I do occasionally buy some figures just to keep them displayed in their packaging. So why don't we quickly, I'll cut to those, and then we'll come back and talk about the new stuff that I just bought like literally this afternoon, just 2 hours ago. So yeah, I'll show you that stuff from a couple days ago first. So the first new figure I have to show you is Swerve. And I'm not even sure what they call this collection, like the Vintage Collection or the Reproduction Collection. But basically what this is a reproduction of the original Swerve figure from the 80s. And he's done on this reproduction packaging to look like it did back in the 80s when it was first released. So it's got that vintage artwork and a little kind of like file card. And they used to have these on all the vintage figures, which you were supposed to not be able to really see how they ranked for intelligence and speed and stuff like that, but they would come with this little strip of red plastic. I'm not sure if these ones actually do. I don't see it in there anywhere. But you would take the strip of red plastic and you'd hold it over this, and that would make the red lines disappear, which would supposedly make it nice and easy to read all of his statistics there. So yeah, it's pretty cool. They've been doing these reproduction figures for a while now. They've done some of the larger figures like Optimus Prime and Starscream and recently Astro Train. But they've done a bunch of these small figures, and I've picked up a few of them already. And one of the most appealing things about these figures is the vintage packaging. So I've chosen not to open Swerve. I'm going to pin him up to the wall along with my other reproductions of these little guys. But I will talk about Swerve just a little bit. I didn't have this figure when I was a kid, but one of my all-time favorite Transformers was Gears, and this is my vintage Gears figure. So yeah, he's missing the grill on the front of his truck. He's been through some battles because this is the guy that I've had since I was like, I don't know, 6 years old or whatever. So yeah, so there's Gears, and he was one of the early Transformers, and they took a lot of those early guys and then they repainted them into new characters. So when they first released Swerve, he's the exact same figure as Gears, except they changed his head. So yeah, you can see here how he's got an actual little face with the mouth and nose and stuff. You can see it more clearly in the artwork. But where Gears just has more of a robotic face with just like a faceplate and a visor. So they did change that about him. And I will mention the vintage figure, I don't think had a face as detailed as this. It might not have had the blue paint for the eyes. I'll bring up a picture of the vintage figure here just for a comparison. But anyway, as a kid, I never felt I needed Swerve because he just seemed like he was a knockoff of my favorite character, Gears. So I was never very interested in him. So never had that figure. However, Swerve became one of the characters that IDW featured very heavily in their comic book. And I became a big fan of Swerve after that. And I wanted a figure of him quite badly. Unfortunately, there wasn't much available. The first one they put out kind of in recent years was this one. And this, as you can see, looks nothing like him really. Like he's red and white at least. But this is just a redo of a Cup figure in Swerve's colors. And, he doesn't seem like a little guy anymore. It just didn't have any swerviness about it. So I bought it as a, at least so I had something representing Swerve on my shelf. But I was never really pleased with it. I was much more happy with this version that I got. Now, this is a third-party Transformer, meaning it's not officially licensed by Hasbro. But again, he turns into pretty much an exact little truck, just like, you see there on the packaging. So the alt mode was much more true to the original as opposed to this guy. And yeah, you see there the face and everything. It just looks a lot more like Swerve. And I liked this figure quite a bit. He's short and stocky, but obviously quite a bit taller than the original figure. So yeah, he was pretty great. Hasbro did eventually release a new Swerve. And here's that Swerve. So you can see he's a little closer to what we expected. He looks a little bit more like his IDW appearance, which I liked. But this figure is pretty simple. So, he was okay. But I think I got the best Swerve available with another third-party figure, which is this one here. So you can see he's got a lot of personality. He's got a big smile on his face. The big kind of goggles there to cover his eyes. The look very much covers his look from the IDW comic books. I think this guy is pretty great. So yeah, that's the best Swerve figure as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, so this little guy here in the packaging, he's just going to go up on the wall for display purposes. So there is Swerve in his new home with the other reproduction vintage Transformers. So next up, I've got this Cara Dune figure. Now this is from the 3 3/4 inch Vintage Collection. And so yeah, so she's in Star Wars, and more specifically, she stars in the Mandalorian TV series. So here you see a close-up shot of the figure, which is actually a pretty good likeness, for a figure this size. And then the artwork on the side, it's a little hard to tell. It looks like a photograph, but it also looks like it could be a painting as well. Yeah, it's a little difficult to tell, but it's a nice image regardless. On the back, just shows you some of the other figures available in the collection, such as the Mandalorian, who's pretty hot right now. And that's it. There's not a whole lot to see on the back there. So there you go. Now, I picked this up just the other day, and I wasn't sure if I would, because one of the things that's nice about 3 3/4 inch Star Wars figures is that they historically have been pretty cheap, because they don't have a lot of accessories and they don't have a lot of articulation. And I suppose it's a good thing that they're doing these vintage collection figures with a lot more detail. You see she's got a couple of accessories now, with like a pistol and a rifle. And she's got a lot more articulation. They're a lot more like G.I. Joe's now in that regard. So she's got elbows and knees. And I'm sure she's got a much better range of motion. It looks like there's a mid-torso joint. So basically, they have the articulation that you'd expect to see in like high-quality figures, more like a Marvel Legends or even like the Star Wars Black Series, which are 6-inch figures. So they've got a lot of detail, a lot of articulation, packed into a small figure. But that has caused the price to jump up quite a bit. So this figure here was $17.99 Canadian, which is, quite a bit for such a small little figure here. But I decided to buy it because I really like the character of Cara Dune. I actually really liked the character before I'd even seen her in the show The Mandalorian. The fact is I'm a big fan of the actress, Gina Carano. And she's a former MMA fighter. I'm a big MMA fan. And to be honest, I never got to see her fight. I was familiar with her, but she never... the UFC hadn't introduced female martial arts, into the UFC by the time she had stopped fighting. So yeah, I never got to see her fight on Strikeforce or some of these other promotions that she fought for. But I was familiar with her, and I was curious to see her star in her first kind of acting gig, at least her first high-profile one, in the movie Haywire back in 2011. And I thought that movie was pretty cool, actually, and she was pretty great in it. And I've wanted to see her do more stuff ever since. She hasn't been in a ton of stuff. The only other thing I think that I've seen is in Deadpool, where she played Angel Dust. So, but I've enjoyed her in... even though I'm not a big fan of Deadpool, the movie, I thought she was pretty great as Angel Dust. I thought she was great in Haywire. And when I finally did get to watch The Mandalorian, a little later than most people because I have not subscribed to Disney+. But yeah, I thought she was great as Cara Dune, and I was happy to see that they brought her back. At first I thought every episode seemed to be almost like a standalone story, and so he met her in one episode, then I thought he was going to move on. But I was happy to see at the end of the series they kind of brought back all the other characters that they had previously established. So yeah, hopefully we'll see more of her in Season 2 and whatnot. It seems like we will. So I only really collect the 6-inch Star Wars figures now, the Black Series. I've moved away from this 3 3/4-inch size a while ago. I do still pick up one here and there, but generally I try to avoid them. But with the 6-inch Cara Dune, she has been very elusive. I have not been able to find her anywhere, any of the Mandalorian figures for that matter. I went out on the first day that the Mandalorian figures came out for release, and I managed to snag everybody right away. Although Cara Dune wasn't in that first wave, she kind of came out in a secondary wave. I'm not exactly sure when, partly because I never saw her anywhere. I've never seen her in a store. People are asking quite a bit for her on eBay. I don't really want to pay $60 for this figure. I'm kind of hoping that eventually it'll just pop up at a store somewhere, or kind of the heat will die down a little bit on this character, and I'll find it for a reasonable price. But even when I do find somebody selling it for basically retail price on eBay for like $30, there's another $20 shipping and stuff. It gets expensive. So I've wanted a Cara Dune figure, but it might be a good while before I get one in the 6 inches. I happened to be in Walmart the other day. They had a fresh stock of these vintage collection figures. They had a bunch of stormtroopers and whatnot, but they only had one Cara Dune. And I thought, you know what? Even though it's $17.99, I think I'm going to grab this one. That way I have her in my collection, and if I opened her up, she would just get lost in the bucket with all my other small Star Wars figures. There's not much point in buying her just to throw her in a bin. So I figured, you know what? It's a nice image on the side there. I'm just going to buy this figure and pin it up on my wall. And so I'll have her in my collection, but hopefully I do get this 6-inch one eventually. Now this corner of the room is still kind of a work in progress. I've got lots of empty space here to fill, but at least for now, that's Cara Dune's new home on the wall with some of my other carded figures. So that's the stuff that I got the other day. As far as the stuff that I got today that I'm going to show you, so I've already been flashing him around a little bit. So this is the new Knights of Ren figure from the Star Wars Black Series. So I didn't know these figures were coming out so soon, so that's pretty cool that I was able to get him. They had a whole new wave of figures, so I picked up the Knight of Ren as well as Clone Commander Bly. And so yeah, this is just another one of the many generic clone commanders. So those are the only two I got. partly because I just didn't have a ton of money to blow. But they had Count Dooku, which was pretty tempting to get. And they also had Zora Bliss. And they had the Sith Jet Trooper. And I think that might have been it. So I had to pass on those 3 figures. Even though I collect Stormtroopers generally, which is why, I keep buying these stupid clone commanders, even though I didn't watch Clone Wars. I didn't really care for the prequel movies all that much. So I don't have much of a fondness for the clone troopers per se. But in my eyes, I see them as just Stormtrooper variations, and I can't help myself but buy pretty much any Stormtrooper variation that I find. But when it comes to the Jet Trooper, both the standard colored one and now the new crimson, like Sith colored one, these guys are both from the new movie, when the Stormtroopers have jetpacks and they take off. There's just something about that helmet design that I really don't like. So I didn't buy the white, the standard Jet Trooper, and I think I'm going to pass on the Sith Jet Trooper as well. So I don't mind leaving him behind, but yeah, Count Dooku and Zora Bliss, maybe to a lesser degree, it was kind of tough to pass them up. And Walmart today also had a whole new wave of Transformers, which I was not expecting to see. If you watched my video about all the reveals from the New York Toy Fair back in February, they announced that they were going to have a line of exclusive Transformers, and I wasn't sure what stores they were going to be exclusive to, but they were. This toy line was all about the upcoming Netflix Transformers series, and so they had that whole wave there as well. So the only one I picked up was Scrapface. So you see here on his packaging, it's a little different than what we normally see. It's in white box as opposed to like the black boxes we normally get. There's some nice artwork there on the side of the character. And you'll see here, this is based on the Netflix original series, which is War for Cybertron. So yeah, I picked up this guy here, Scrapface, and I had to leave behind. They had a new version of Sideswipe and Chromia, and they were both kind of all scuffed up. The original versions were kind of much cleaner. These ones looked like they were battle damaged. There was also Hound in the new white box, but at a glance, it didn't even look like he was repainted. It looked like the exact same Hound we got earlier in the year, so I didn't mind leaving him behind either. The only one that I was kind of wanted to pick up was Mirage. Now, so Mirage has been released twice already. There's the standard white and blue, kind of standard Autobot colors for Mirage, which I did not get. But then the holographic translucent blue version of Mirage came in a 3-pack with a couple other figures, and I just got that for my birthday in January. So I had the translucent figure, and I kind of thought that was enough for me. But now this new version is kind of what they're calling Decepticon Mirage, and he's in gray and purple, and he looks pretty cool. And I was tempted to get him, but the Transformers were $30 a piece, and normally Star Wars Black Series are $30 a piece as well, but they've gone up now. They were like $32.99, so that's a little disappointing. Anyway, so besides those, I also bought the new Star Wars Rise of Skywalker movie that just came out, which I'm looking forward to watching. It's actually got a full-length documentary called The Skywalker Legacy, so I'll be watching that later tonight. And yeah, hopefully maybe they'll elaborate a little bit on characters like the Knight of Ren, because if you've seen the movie, he looked cool, but they didn't do much of anything. And considering they mentioned them way back in The Force Awakens, the Knights of Ren, we were kind of waiting to see what these guys would do, and then they didn't really do much. So I don't know, maybe we'll get to learn a little bit more about them in the documentary. So I'm looking forward to this. And plus I had to buy, because normally I go to the grocery store, I just buy a couple of days worth of stuff at a time. But now that under this whole new, coronavirus thing, we try not to leave the house very often. So I'm trying to buy a week or two's worth of groceries all in one shot. So considering the pile of groceries I had, the 3 figures, the DVD, I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to leave some of these figures behind. So hopefully in the coming weeks or a month or two from now, I'll be able to pick up Decepticon Mirage, Dooku, and Zora Bliss. But for now, I'm just going to talk about those 3 that I did pick up. But before I open them up and start chatting about them, a couple things I mentioned in my initial intro. I said that I should be doing more stuff while I'm laying around the house all day long. There is one thing that I'm kind of working on, and I'll show you just quickly. So this wall here, underneath my window, I had some figures carded, like some carded figures tacked underneath the windowsill, but I took those guys down, and I'm working on these two shelves here. So I painted these guys up. So that was one project I did. Because I've got this whole pile of Funko Pops here. Because I have nowhere to put Funko Pops. They're piling up on my windowsill, and I've got them in a box. So with these two, wow. So once I get these two things all painted up, I intend to attach them to my wall underneath the windowsill, and that should give me display for quite a few pops. I've done the math, and even if I load those things up with pops, and even if they're spaced out pretty nicely, I'm not going to cram them on there. That should allow me to hold, I think, 114 pops or something like that. So hopefully next time we're doing a video, I'll show you what that looks like. So yeah, that's something I'm working on. Another thing I just wanted to quickly mention is I've talked about in my last video or two that I've been going to McDonald's and collecting the Mr. Men figures, which are these little guys. So yeah, these are from a series of books that I liked as a kid. They were called Mr. Men, and then they did a series of books for little girls as well called Little Miss. And so they just created a bunch of new like little female characters. So at McDonald's right now, when you go to get a Happy Meal, you get with every Happy Meal you get a little bag with 2 characters in it, and you get a Mr. Man and a Little Miss in each package. And there's 60 of them to collect, and I was hoping to manage to get at least a good chunk of them. I wasn't able to get any of my favorite guys I was looking for. Mr. Strong is the one I really wanted because that's the book that I had as a kid. But I have managed to get 8 of them. So these are the guys I've gotten so far. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about each one because there's not much to say. Yeah, so I did all right. If you happen to have any sitting around the house, maybe you got a Happy Meal and you don't have any use for these figures, maybe let me know. You can send them my way. Of all the guys that I got, I think this guy's my favorite. This guy's Mr. Small. He's kind of stuck holding that pencil to emphasize how small he is, but yeah, he's pretty cute. So yeah, those are my Mr. Men. Another thing I think I'll talk about just briefly is I mentioned in my introduction about how I've been doing lots of online shopping. Now, just to give you an idea of what I've been buying, I'm going to do a little rundown of everything that I've got on pre-order. And all of my stuff I buy through Big Bad Toy Store. Because one of the things that's great about them is they have an option that they call Pile of Loot. So, in the past, like even before Big Bad had their Pile of Loot, when you buy from them and when you buy from most other websites, you buy something and they say, okay, thanks for your money, we're going to ship it out to you. And then if you see something like 2 days later, you can't lump it in with the other thing. You have to pay like full shipping for that other thing, and they ship that thing out 2 days later, and so on and so forth. And for somebody that buys a lot of stuff, that can be kind of a pain. You're thinking like, well, man, if I'm going to order that one figure and it's $20 shipping, or if I wait and buy 2 figures, it's only $25 shipping rather than paying another $20, I might as well try and lump things together. And sometimes that's not always easy to do if you go onto a website and there's really only one figure you're looking for. So what Big Bad does is they say, anything you buy, you can ask us to hold it in your pile of loot. And I think they'll hold it there for, I don't know, like 100 days or something. They'll hold it for a while. And then anything that you buy subsequently, you can say, hey, can you add that to my pile of loot? And once you feel you've got enough stuff that it's worth your while, that they can combine your shipping, they'll send out your package. So I currently have 4 items in my pile of loot. That means they are all paid for, and they're sitting in a box somewhere and they're waiting to send them to me. So I have currently a Slash figure from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles NECA line. Now this figure here is based on the Turtles in Time video game, and I think it's a really cool figure. It's got some of that like 8-bit kind of paint job to make them look kind of digital, which isn't like my favorite thing. I think I only have one toy in my collection that's got that kind of 8-bit. I know some people really like that, probably people that are big gamers. I'm not. So, and I played the Ninja Turtle games on the Super Nintendo and stuff back in the day, but I don't have that crazy nostalgic attachment to them that some people do. But NECA's also got another Slash figure that I have on pre-order, and it comes in a 2-pack with Leatherhead. And Leatherhead was really the appeal of this 2-pack for me. So I wanted the Leatherhead, and I didn't mind that I had to get Slash with him, but it's not a great look for Slash. I think Slash looks kind of doofy based on his animated look. But I figured, well, at least I'll have a Slash in my collection. But then when I found out they were doing this Turtles in Time version, he looks much cooler. So I still don't have that Leatherhead pack. I've got that on pre-order actually from EB Games here locally. So whenever they call me, I'll get that one. But as far as Big Bad Toy Store goes, I have the individual Turtles in Time Slash available in my pile of loot now. Also, a little while ago, a video or two ago, I showed you that I got my first ever ad icons from Funko Pop. So I normally buy, superheroes and, things like that when it comes to Funko Pops, rock stars, things. But they have a whole line where they do advertising mascots and stuff. So like Toucan Sam or the Jolly Green Giant, things like that. So I got Chester Cheetah and the Kool-Aid Man not too long ago. I thought they were both really cool figures. And I'm a fan of those products. So I thought, you know what? They had a Captain Crunch Funko Pop on there. I eat Captain Crunch all the time. I had Captain Crunch this morning, actually. So I picked that guy up, so he's ready to ship out to me. Also, there's a company called Zika Toys that have done a couple of Kickstarters in the last couple of years. I was interested in them, but not enough for me to pitch into the Kickstarter and then wait years and years for the product to come. I kind of thought I'd sit back and wait and see how they, for one, if the projects would actually fund, and then when the figures actually got made, to see kind of what people were saying about them online. Were they worth my time? So Zika has 2 new lines that they just pretty much rolled out within the last month or so. So they've got their Captain Action line. So if you're not familiar with Captain Action, it's an old toy line from the 70s. It was originally a 12-inch doll. This guy had a standard outfit where he had this kind of goofy hat and this tight suit with a little Captain Action logo on him. But the gimmick of that toy was that you could buy all these different outfits for him, kind of like a Barbie doll. And the company that made Captain Action had licensing for all the superheroes, so you could buy a Spider-Man outfit for Captain Action or a Superman costume. So even though that's Marvel and DC, all the licensing, this company had that to make their Captain Action. So now Zika doesn't have the right to make Spider-Man and Superman, but they had the right to make Captain Action in his little standard blue tights. And rather than make a 12-inch doll, they decided to make him a little 3 3/4 inch character, like a G.I. Joe. And so they made Captain Action in a couple of different colors, as well as some of his villains and henchmen and all that sort of stuff. So I decided to get one figure right now to just try him out, and if I really enjoy it, I might end up buying more. So I got Captain Action in his purple outfit. I thought the purple outfit looked a little cooler than his standard blue one, and I'm glad I did, because now I see that the purple outfit is sold out on Big Bad, but the blue one is still available. So once I get the purple one in, I might decide to go back and get the blue later. And then their other line is Sectors. Now, if you're familiar with Sectors, I'm not quite sure how you say it. This was a toy line from the 80s. I never had any Sectors when I was a kid. I had friends that had them. I was familiar with them. You'd see them around. Basically, the gimmick with them is there were these bug people that rode around on bugs. The figures were like an awkward size. They were probably like 8 inches or so. So they were much bigger than like G.I. Joes and stuff, but they were even bigger than like He-Man figures and stuff like that. So they wouldn't really mix well with anything else I had existing in my collection. And I just didn't really think they looked all that cool. I love bugs. The idea of bug people should be super cool, but instead these guys they were just kind of like dorky guys with like antennas and googly eyes. They just didn't look great. And then for accessories, you could buy hand puppets that were like spiders and flies and stuff, and you put your hand there and your fingers went in the legs, and you controlled this thing, and you would mount the little guy, he would ride on your hand puppet. And yeah, it was kind of a cool concept, but just nothing I ever really got into. Anyway, Zika got the licensing to relaunch the Sectors line. Again, they've shrunk them down to 3 3/4 inch, so now they're compatible with your Captain Action or your G.I. Joes and whatnot. And they rolled out a pretty good line. I think there was like 8 or 9 figures initially. And I think the bad guys actually look cooler than the good guys, because they're a little more buggy. But for me to get one figure from the line, and perhaps it'll be my only one, unless I get it and really kind of fall in love with them and decide to buy the rest, I decided to get, what's his name, Dargon. And he's like the leader of the good guys. So he's just this kind of standard blonde guy with antennas and buggly eyes. So yeah, I'm excited to see both of them. I was curious about these lines when they first launched them, and I've since seen some people reviewing them and stuff here on YouTube and everything, and it kind of convinced me that, yeah, I think I need to pick at least one of each of these figures up myself so I can see for myself. So those are all things in my pile of loot. You might be wondering, so why don't you get them to send that out to you? Because still just 4 figures doesn't seem quite enough. I usually would like to try maybe get, a few more in there to save on shipping. And there's a few things that I've been waiting on for a while. One of them is the Wave 2 of the Robotech figures from Toynami. So I got Wave 1 months ago, and they were pretty great. I kept them carded, and they're up on my wall over here. So the second wave has got Ben Dixon, Claudia Grant, Captain Global, Rick Hayes in an alternate outfit from the figure I already have. Rick Hunter, and Lisa Hayes. So I'm excited to get these figures. I bought them, I made the pre-order months and months ago, and initially they were supposed to come out, they were saying last quarter of 2019, and then first quarter of 2020, and now it's saying second quarter 2020. I don't know. It's taken a long time, and I haven't seen anything. When I Google Wave 2 Toonami online, I'm not seeing any images. I don't know if these things, how they're progressing. No other retailers have them up. Nobody's got early figures to review. So I don't know if they're held up for some reason, but God knows when I'll see those. Another figure that I ordered months and months and months ago was this 12-inch Merman figure from a company called Mondo. And they've been making 12-inch Masters of the Universe figures for a while. And I haven't really been super keen on their version of He-Man and Skeletor that they rolled out at first. But when I saw their Merman is one of my all-time favorite fictional characters ever. He's definitely my favorite He-Man, but I love Merman. And I think the figure Mondo produced of this guy is amazing. He looks cooler than he ever has. He looks menacing. He looks cool. And when I saw that thing, I was like, I'm pre-ordering this. I don't care how expensive it is. And he is pretty pricey. I knew it was going to be my toy of the year last year because it was supposed to ship, around October or something, 2019, I think. But I pre-ordered it, and it didn't arrive, and then they pushed it back to the estimated arrival date was first quarter 2020. The first quarter of 2020 has come and gone. Now it's saying second quarter 2020. I don't know when that's going to be. And the most annoying thing about that is, unlike the Robotech figures, which legitimately seem to be kind of, stuck in production somewhere, the Merman figure has been out. Mondo did release it in 2019. There's lots of reviews of it online, and on Mondo's website, they have the figure for sale. So I thought anytime I could cancel my pre-order with Big Bad and buy it directly from Mondo, it was essentially the same price. I think it was $1 difference. The only reason I didn't is because I'd never bought anything from Mondo before. I felt comfortable buying from Big Bad, in case something happened with shipping or anything like that. I knew they would be good to, if there was a refund required or anything like that. So I thought I'd keep it with Big Bad. But it's been months and months and months, and I really want that figure. So today, just earlier today, I decided, you know what, I'm going to cancel my pre-order with Big Bad. I'm going to buy this thing from Mondo, which I did. However, what kind of sucks is the Canadian dollar hasn't been in great shape for a while. Basically, for every American dollar something costs, it cost me $1.30 Canadian. So this Merman was $170 US. So you got to times that by 1.3 plus tack on shipping. And then you're probably going to have to pay some custom duties and stuff when it arrives. So it's not cheap. Anyway, I ordered it from Mondo today. But because of everything going on here with coronavirus, our dollar is really not doing well. So it's currently at $1.47 for every American dollar. So yeah, this Merman's going to cost me a fair bit, which also factored into why I didn't buy all the toys I wanted at Walmart today, because I knew I just bought this Merman. But anyway, hopefully Mondo sends them out and I have them relatively soon. So yeah, him aside, some of the other things I have pre-ordered from Big Bad that are supposed to arrive in April. So at some point this month, I should get the notification that these items are now in my pile of loot. And once these things arrive in my pile of loot, I'm going to tell Big Bad to ship it. So first, it's the entirety of the Wave 2 of Super 7's Transformers reaction figures. So that's Shrapnel, Rumble, Grimlock, Skyfire, Shockwave, Alpha Trion, Mirage, and Astro Train. So 8 new figures in that line. So once those 8 figures come in, combine it with the 4 figures I already have, that's enough for me to say, yeah, please ship this and send it out to me. So that'll be a good day when that box arrives. But also slated to come out in April, assuming everything arrives on time, will be my first Thundercats Ultimate figure from Super 7. So these are based on the 80s toy line Thundercats, very similar to the Masters of the Universe. They would be compatible with them. They're 6 inches in size. They call them Ultimates because they come with a bunch of accessories, alternate heads, all this sort of stuff. So there's 4 figures in the first wave of Thundercats Ultimates. I was never a big Thundercats fan. They were kind of like sectars to me. I knew they were around, but I just didn't have any myself, so I don't have any nostalgic ties to them. But Lion-O is a cool character. He's the leader of the good guys. If you're going to have one Thundercat, you got to get Lion-O. So out of Wave 1, I pre-ordered Lion-O, and he's supposed to be in stock this month. I wouldn't hold my breath, though, because I also have a couple other figures directly ordered from Super 7, such as a Conan figure, and they're months behind on their production. So, yeah, I don't think Lion-O will show up on time, but who knows. Next up, I have an Iron Giant from Diamond Select Toys. I love the Iron Giant. It's such a great movie. The only Iron Giant figure I have is this little teeny guy that came packaged with like the VHS when you bought it back in the day. There have been some nice figures released of the Iron Giant in more recent years, but they're pretty expensive. This one here is 9 inches, so he's a good size, and he's only like $30. So he looks really cool. I'm excited to get him. Hopefully he turns out as good as he looks in these images here. Also slated to arrive in April is my Rivers Cuomo Funko Pop. So that's the lead singer of the band Weezer, which I'm a big fan of. You know, I kind of wish they'd done the whole band rather than just the singer, but you know, what are you going to do? I also have on pre-order Sunfire, and so this is a Marvel Legend from the X-Men Age of Apocalypse wave. Now, normally I wouldn't have pre-ordered this because most of my Marvel Legends, I can find them around here. You know, Marvel Legends aren't too hard to find, so I usually buy them at EB Games, and I get them cheaper from EB Games because I have a platinum card there, and so I get a discount. And but with the Age of Apocalypse wave, Sunfire is literally the only figure I'm interested in, which doesn't happen often. Usually I'm trying to get the whole wave of figures. So I kind of thought, you know what, just since the one figure, I'd rather just not have to worry about the stress of trying to track him down. I'll just place the pre-order and I'll get him whenever. So Sunfire. And lastly for April, I have the probe droid from the 6-inch Star Wars Black Series. So this is that droid that, you know, crashes into Hoth, the snow planet in The Empire Strikes Back. And he kind of just like glides around and beeps at stuff and everything. I always thought that was such a really cool, spidery looking droid. And I never had one as a kid. So yeah, I'm happy to finally get this probe droid. So that's everything I have on pre-order that's slated to ship in April. For May, I have a whole nother batch of stuff that I've pre-ordered. There's, I've got, Meredith and Kelly Funko Pops. So these are from The Office. I already have a bunch of Office characters on my desk at work. So I want to add Meredith and Kelly to the mix. Then there's Wave 3 of the Transformers reaction figures. So that's Dirge, Blitzwing, Prowl, Perceptor, Devastator, Blaster, and Reflector. Now, they haven't even showed images of any of these figures, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're a little bit delayed too, but I'm looking forward to those. In June, I'm expected to get a new Godzilla figure from NECA. This is based on the movie Tokyo SOS, so that's one of the cooler kind of, I guess, late 90s or early 2000s for SOS. It's one of the more modern looks for Godzilla, so I'm excited about that. There's also the 6-inch Destro figure. So I don't have any of the 6-inch G.I. Joe figures yet. I've pre-ordered all the rest of them directly from Hasbro, so the Hasbro Pulse website. But at the time those figures went up for pre-order, the other 4, Destro wasn't available. They made Destro available separately, so I just figured I'd add him with my order from Big Bad Toy Store. And then I've got a bunch more Star Wars Black Series. There's a carbonized version of a Stormtrooper and Boba Fett. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with the Boba Fett or not. I might end up canceling that because I already have a Boba Fett Black Series figure. I don't really need another one. But the carbonized figures have this really nice kind of a sheen paint job. It looks really nice. So yeah, I figured I'd better put the pre-order down on it just in case it sells out in the meantime. But they look pretty cool. Then just as of today, they put up the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian figure up for pre-order. And they put the 6-inch Cara Dune figure up for pre-order. So yeah, that figure I was just complaining about when I was showing you my little Cara Dune figure, saying I don't know when, if ever, I'll get the 6-inch figure. Now it looks like I will as of June. The thing is, it had never been available for pre-order individually on Big Bad before, and so now I'm not sure why, but they're getting some in stock, so I'm finally going to get one. I wish I'd known that a week ago. I probably wouldn't have spent the $17.99 on the small one, but what are you going to do? And then in July, I've got another Batman Funko Pop on pre-order. I collect Batman Funko Pops. I like all the weird, wonderful colors that they release him in, so I've got another Batman coming. And then other things I have on pre-order, which they don't have a definitive arrival date yet, is I've got Mumra and Tigra from Thundercats Wave 2. So that was another 4 figures, and I opted to get 2 of the 4 for Wave 2. And then there's actually the Thundercats Wave 3 just went for pre-order today. And another 4 figures. I only pre-ordered 1, which was Scythe, the kind of like wizard or lizard guy, which I always thought was cool. And lastly, I pre-ordered an entire wave of Ninja Turtle Ultimate figures from Super 7. So again, these are in line with their Thundercats, with the Masters of the Universe. They're 6-inch figures, and these figures are based on the vintage 80s toy line. So where NECA is making Ninja Turtle figures based on the movies and the cartoon, Super 7 is making figures based on the vintage line. And the Wave 1 hasn't come out yet. It's available for pre-order, but none of the 4 figures in Wave 1 super appealed to me. But when Wave 2 went up for pre-order, not only was my favorite turtle, Leo, in there, but my favorite Turtles character in general, Bebop, was there. And then you had Shredder and Mutagen Man, both of which are pretty cool. So I just pre-ordered that whole wave. Anyway, so those are all the toys I'm expecting in the near future. So now that I've talked about all that, if you're still with me here, let's take a look at the new toys that I bought today. So let's first take a look at Clone Commander Bly. So as I mentioned before, I've already got a bunch of Clone Commanders. You can maybe see some of them in the background there. And I think they're all relatively the same. The last couple I got seem to have this like cloth bit here. And that's kind of weird. There's kind of a little discoloration there. I don't know if that's intentional. It seems kind of weird if it is, because it's just one random little spot there. But anyway, I do like the inclusion of the soft goods there. And this guy's got a pretty cool look. He looks like he'd be like maybe a desert trooper or something. And the fact that he's got cloth there kind of brings back memories of Dusty, who was a pretty cool G.I. Joe of the 80s, who had a real cloth on his helmet there. As far as the build goes, I think he's probably pretty standard to what we've seen on the other clone commanders. He does have lots of extra little kibble on here to keep him just from being a boring clone trooper. For example, this belt here, which looks to be it's a separate piece, and it's got 2 removable pistols on the holsters, so that's kind of cool. And then for other accessories, he's also got this big long rifle here, and again, I think we've seen that before with other troopers. Yeah, he's got these shoulder pads here, which are kind of separate pieces. I don't know if you could take this whole thing off. If you pop his head off, you probably could. So this is shoulder piece, and it attaches to this strap here. And actually, the strap around the shoulder seems to maybe attach, or it just tucks into the belt there. Interestingly enough. Now will I be able to get that back in there? There we go. Yeah, so it just tucks into the belt. So yeah, there's really not a whole lot to say about this guy other than to talk about the deco, which I said looks really cool. Looks like a desert trooper. I haven't watched any of the Clone Wars cartoons, so I'm not sure if their different armors represent like different environments that they were in. Like I have one clone commander over there who's all kind of like green camo. I assume he was maybe on a jungle planet. And this guy here, like I said, he belongs like on a place like Hoth, or not Hoth, like Tatooine or something, would suit this guy. The one thing he's got that I think is unique to him is this visor, and it pulls down there, so it looks like that's maybe kind of like binoculars or something, or maybe night vision, I don't know. Some of the other clone commanders have like a ridge above their visor there, but I don't think any of them have it that slide up and down like that. So that's kind of a cool little feature. And otherwise, there's not much to say. Articulation-wise, he bends at the elbows there, and he's got the double-jointed elbows, and he's got double-jointed knees, so that's good. He's got a really good range of motion there with the legs. And sort of his head, not a whole lot of, looks like his head's not even ball-jointed. Like, it can go up and down. You can see maybe just barely see the joint there. So it turns side to side and back and forth. Like it's got a good range of movement, but not as good as the next figure I'm going to show you. But overall, yeah, I don't really have any gripes. Is this figure essential to your collection? Probably not, especially if you have all the other various clone troopers and stuff. But if you were a fan of the prequels and the Clone Wars cartoons, and maybe you know a little bit more about this guy specifically, it's definitely a nice figure. I don't have any problems with it. It's pretty nice. So I'd say go ahead and pick one of these guys up. Now here is a Knight of Ren, and that is literally all of his package says. It describes his name as Knight of Ren, and the little bio on the back says something along the lines of the Knight of Ren, you know, work with Kylo, blah, blah, blah. Nothing specifically about this guy. However, if you saw the movie, there was kind of like at least a half dozen of these guys that were following Kylo Ren around. And so you gotta wonder, do they have individual names? And apparently even in the movie, these guys aren't credited with individual names in the credits or anything. But if you go online and to some of the like more hardcore like Wikipedia type sites for Star Wars, you do find out that each of the Knights of Ren has their own name and their own background. This guy's name is Vicrul, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, Vicrul. And they've all got their own unique weapons. This guy's got an ultrasonic scythe, which I guess if you have an ultrasonic scythe, this is what it would look like. It looks like kind of a standard scythe with a bunch of extra gobbledygook on it. And yeah, that's about it. I'm not going to get into it. There is more of a background written on him online, but it's probably pretty generic for all the guys. They don't really tell you his real name or too much of his unique history or anything, because I don't think anybody knows that stuff yet. I'm sure it'll be explored in novels and comic books down the road, but for now, this guy's a bit of a mystery. Now, as I mentioned when I was talking about Bly, about the head articulation, so this is like a new type of articulation that we're seeing lately. It's a double ball joint. So there's like a joint in the neck and then a joint connect to his head. So he's got a really nice range of motion there. Yeah, you'd know it when you feel it. It feels different than a standard ball joint on a head. Yeah, and it just moves really nice. As far as the rest of articulation goes, I think he's pretty standard. Now he actually doesn't have the double jointed elbows like the clone trooper. As for knees, no, it looks like just a single joint on the knee as well. But he's articulated the ankles, and he's got this long jacket, so this hinders him a little bit. You might have a little trouble if you want to get him in too many dynamic poses. Yeah, just kind of can't move his leg back too far. He does swivel there at the waist and whatnot. Shoulders, elbows, all that good stuff. For accessories, he's got his ultrasonic scythe, and he also has this pistol, which can be holstered. It came loose, and I had to wrestle with it a little bit to get it to fit into these two straps. Kind of had to push this end down first and then wrap this bit over top of it. But it looks like he's got a trigger finger here, so he's ready to hold that pistol. And I tried to put this thing in this hand at first, and it was very loose. Even this hand, it's kind of loose. He doesn't hold it super well. But whatever. Overall, I think he looks great. Like, he looks a lot like Kylo Ren. He's all in black. His mask is reminiscent of that. What I read online is this design was actually like an unused concept for Kylo Ren, so that's probably why it looks so similar. And that his when they had the concept art out there, the kind of name they were using for this design was Grenade Head, which makes sense because his head with that kind of checkered design kind of looks like an old school kind of pineapple grenade. And yeah, I really like the look of him. Like, he looks like he could be just any old Sith guy. Like, I have a few Sith troopers now, besides Darth Vader and Darth Maul. I've got, what are the other? Darth Raven and, some of these other dudes like this. Like, he fits in perfectly. You don't want him to get too elaborate. I like that they're sticking to the basic theme, the black and silver. These guys all look really cool on screen, backing up Kylo Ren. This guy's no different. The weathering effect there, I don't know if that's supposed to be like dirt, because when these guys were featured in the movie, their Rise of Skywalker, they were mostly on kind of in a desert plain, so I don't know if that's what this is supposed to be. But it looks fine. It helps to break up the figure a little bit, but rather than just being solid black, I don't mind it there at all. And he's got some various textures there, like his boots, you can see they're really muddy as well. The inside of his jacket's got some of his dirt as well. So yeah, overall, pretty cool figure. I dig him. I'm sure I will buy all the Knights of Ren if they decide to keep making them. So the last new figure I have to show you here is Scrapface. Now this guy here, he is just a repaint of the Decepticon that transforms into a camera known as, well, he used to be known as Reflector, but for whatever reason now they've changed his name to Refractor, probably for copyright reasons. So the first Refractor figure was released last year, and this is his standard cartoon colors, so purple and green. And then they released a 3-pack of the same figure again, but in 3 different decos. And these decos were to match the vintage toy from the 80s. Because basically, in order for him to turn into a camera, you had to have 3 of the same figure all snapped together. So the only toy that was available as a kid was one of these 3 guys. So it was essentially the 3 figure painted that one way. However, in the cartoon, you just had 3 guys that looked identical to this. So when Hasbro released this guy, a lot of people were buying this guy 3 times over just so they could match the cartoon. But then shortly afterwards, Hasbro gave us these 3 guys so people could recreate the vintage toy look. And I love all of them. Like you see these ones here, they have some extra add-on details. This guy's got the shoulder pads. This guy here, he's got kind of the extra shield on the side there. This guy here's got the flash bulb, which acts as some sort of armor or something. So these guys all have a little bit of a unique thing. This is more like the bare bones version of them, but it's actually my favorite of the 4. I like the cartoon look the best. I just, yeah, love this figure. And I put this guy on my best of 2019 list. I absolutely love this figure. And even though, like, let's be honest, there's nothing super exciting about this sculpt. Like, you know, the head is pretty much just a standard face. You know, there's nothing super special about him. But this is a character who was featured in the cartoons and the comic books and stuff, but never was readily available. Like, that figure, the vintage figure here, was only available through like a mail order, so a lot of people never had it. I never did. And then even, you know, when they remade Transformers, like how many Optimus Primes and Bumblebees are out there? Starscreams, Megatron. You know, some of these characters, there's probably hundreds of variations. There has literally never been another version of Reflector/Refractor since the initial mail order toy. So the fact that we got 4 variations of him last year, I just loved it. I was excited to get the character, and I would be willing to buy this toy in as many different colors as they want to put out. So during their Toy Fair reveals in February, they revealed that they were going to release the figure again, but this time as a whole new character named Scrapface, and in a new color scheme, this kind of red and blue. I was all for it. I was like, yes, give me another one of these guys. I love it. So here he is. Let me just clear these other guys out of the way here for a second. Okay, so here's Scrapface. Now let's take a little bit of a closer look at him. Now for accessories, he's got the exact same pieces as all the other guys do. He's got this gun and this shield, both of which, if you bought this figure 3 times over, you could transform him into a camera as well. And the 3 shields, once they snap together, they make the whole like kind of lens. And if you take 3 of these guns and snap them together, they make like a tripod for the camera. But if you buy just one, they don't really advertise that he turns into a camera because one figure doesn't really work. He transforms into just kind of a spaceship on his own. So, yeah, so his accessories, you know, same stuff as we've seen before. There's nothing different about the sculpt at all. It's kind of plain from the back. The paint job was really nice though, and that's really the only thing that changed this guy up. So the red and the blue. And when I first saw the images of this guy from the Toy Fair, I thought he looked great. And there was some speculation, and I don't know if this was confirmed and maybe it never will be, but just because his name was Scrapface and he had the red and the blue, some people suspected that maybe he was an homage to the G.I. Joe Scrap Iron. Now, you see here, Scrap Iron is also red and blue, and he is an explosive expert, and he's received some damage to his face. You can kind of see there if I get up close. He's got scars on his face there, and his goggles come off. I don't know if I've ever actually taken these off here. Yeah, there you go. if I take those off, you can see he's got this big scar across his face there, and one of his eyes seems to be kind of like dead. It's just kind of like a milky white eye. So when this figure was advertised, the Scrapface here, not only does his name Scrapface kind of is reminiscent of scrap iron, the colors looked very similar, and the promotional images showed that he had a big scar across his face, as well as these scars, these scratches across the front of him here. And it looked to me like there was maybe battle damage throughout the figure. So I was really excited about that. Now that I have him in hand, I wouldn't say that the colors really match up with scrap iron. Sure, he's red and blue, but it's not an obvious homage. The blues and the reds are both different. But I'm very disappointed to see that Scrapface, that's his name, his face is not scrapped at all. Like, he looks just like all the other versions of reflector slash refractor. Look at that face. Super smooth, super clean, super nice. This is just a good looking, handsome robot. And that's not what I expect from a guy named Scrapface. Like, if you look at that promotional artwork, he should be all scratched up. And I think that would have done so much to enhance this figure. Like, I still like it. I'm happy I got it. But yeah, I really think he needs a big scar across his face. And that would really sell this thing as a unique character and give people a reason to buy this thing, especially if they've already bought this figure 4 times over. So I like it a lot, but I think I would have loved it if he had the battle damage as originally advertised. So those are all my latest new toys. Thank you very much for watching, if you stuck with me through this whole video. I didn't expect this to take as long as it did. But let's be honest, nobody has anything better to do right now. We're all stuck at home. So I don't know, maybe an hour of me rambling about toys was worth watching. I hope it was. Anyway, if you did enjoy the video, as always, I please ask that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please leave me comments below. I love reading your comments. For one, it lets me know that somebody's watching these things. And yeah, I'll definitely respond to you if you leave me a comment below. So yeah, I'll be back before long with another video. I still have toys to talk about. I still have the whole wave of Black Widow Marvel Legends that I've been telling you I'm going to do a video about, but I've done like 3 or 4 other videos in the meantime. So I will get to those maybe next time, or at least in the near future. I do have something else planned that I want to do for maybe my next video. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you back here soon. In the meantime, you know, stay safe and try not to go nuts and kill your families or anything like that. Just, yeah, watch more toy videos. So, until then,